to your mother. It's time for another episode of Birds with Friends. Just some high-flying, ran-fast vertical stems of professors from Penn watching eagles eating prey like Pazookies on birthdays. It's Philadelphia. Marissa, Bo, and Zach kicking it. Cooler than 3 penguins till Zach runs off with his valet keys. He's a real nuanced goose. Pull up a branch, get loose. It's time for some juice on some
Birds with Friends.
The early bird gets the worm but prefers getting turned like a turn on some
Birds with Friends.
Marissa, Bo, and Zach are here to squawk. Don't miss the mistress talk on some.
I don't call it the off season. I call it the non-playing season.
Is that what you say when people, normies ask you about what you do in the off season? You say it's not the off season, it's the non-playing season.
I don't correct them, but I'll call it the non-playing season.
Okay.
I'll feel like there's the playing season.
The NPO.
Season. Yeah.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Birds with Friends on a Tuesday afternoon. Bo Wulf, Marissa Dunn, Zach Berman here to talk about the latest going on with the Philadelphia Eagles. We got a couple veteran low-level signings. We got CJ Gardner-Johnson definitively gone. We've got a big guest coming up later in the show. Brendan Quinn from The Athletic, the college basketball and golf writer, one of our favorites in the company. He will be joining us to talk a little bit Eagles, a little bit college basketball, a little bit Maryland, a little just sort of sicko nonsense. We'll get to that. But before we do that, Marissa, last week we were recording a podcast, and for one of the very first times, Zach went out of his way to give us a personal nugget. He circled back to tell us the story of one of his favorite birthdays, which was a surprise birthday party at Tacanelli's, his favorite pizza place in the city. And then last Friday, you and I and the millions of extended Berman family, along with Shil Kapadia and his wife Jessica and my wife Rachel, we gathered in Tacanelli's as Zach Berman rounded the corner for the big surprise birthday party. Zach, happy early birthday.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. It was very nice of you guys to be there. It was awesome. It was even cooler for Emily to throw it. I appreciate it. And yeah, thank you.
Hold on a second. You're saying it was cooler for Emily to throw it than it was for you to have it?
No. I'm grateful for Emily throwing it, and I'm grateful for you guys attending. And yeah, it was a fun night. It was touching to see everybody there.
Well, let's get into this. I mean, Marissa, what were the highlights for you?
I mean, everything was the highlight. First of all, Emily is wonderful. Threw an amazing party, the decorations, the cake, adorable. She did such a good job.
She did.
Loved spending time with Rachel Wulf and Jessica Kapadia. Oh, that was great. Great stories. I feel like we discovered that we don't tell enough Rachel stories on the pod, so we need to.
I'm all in favor of more Bo and Rachel stuff. Absolutely.
Yes, that was wonderful. And then, of course, meeting every Berman was just fabulous.
Absolutely.
I think we have one Berman lined up for every podcast until the draft. I'm pretty sure. And your father-in-law. He's a big listener, he's told me, but he did not want to join the pod, but I would love to get him on because he was wonderful as well. Jenna, we do not give enough love to your sister. We talk a lot about the brothers on this podcast. So big shout out to Jenna. Just an awesome night. It was very fun.
Yeah.
Jenna's in the chat every now and then.
Yeah. Yeah, she was very upset that we didn't have her on when we had all the brothers on. So I apologized and told her whenever she wants to come on, she is more than welcome to join. So
now I know that Zach will want all of the conversations from that evening to have been off the record, and I think I will mostly respect that. But there is one nugget that I do want to discuss.
Oh God!
Because my favorite, I love all the Berman siblings for sure, but to get a chance to talk with Zach's mom for a little bit was really the top of the food chain for me. And what an interesting thing she told us, Marissa, that for most of Zach's early childhood, up until about 8th or 9th grade or so, he was the problem child. Zach was the one who was always agitating for a fight. He was always complaining. He was the one trying to call power into account.
Yeah.
And
I don't
then
think she said complaining. She didn't say complaining. There was no complaining in our household. But yeah, go on.
but
Instigating.
at some point they had a little sit down and Zach changed his tune. But what a surprise that this rule abiding peppy Zach has not always been the Zach that he is.
I'm disappointed because I missed this conversation. I had a
Oh.
lovely conversation with Zach's mom, who is adorable. But I did not hear this conversation, so I'm very intrigued.
There's I think we should get back to Bo and Rachel. No, I was I was an instigator, if you will, right? Like nothing bad. I didn't. Whoa, getting excited there. I didn't get in trouble per se. I just the same way as a reporter. You push, you provoke, you try to. What's the expression? Comfort the afflicted and afflict the comforted.
Mm.
So a little bit of that as well.
It's great, and the pizza.
The pizza
As
was
always.
awesome, but it was so nice you guys to come. Honestly, it was. I did not expect that, and it was so nice of Emily to do it. So I
Very
appreciate
nice
it.
of Emily. And like I said, Zach, you better start planning her next birthday like tomorrow or yesterday.
Yeah.
So...
I think that was like the whole drive home was about her birthday. So
I'm sure you're going to write a beautiful note from your stationery that will just take care of.
if only that could suffice.
Yeah,
You should also tell Emily that the Z cookies came in very handy. I needed a good bribe to get the kids in the car over the weekend. Really worked out very well.
I'll give you some more.
Big days tomorrow, right, Zach?
Yeah, yes. My birthday is tomorrow. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Who are your birthday twins?
Bob Costas,
Okay,
Sean Bradley.
which one?
We discussed this. The 7'6" one. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I've always made the joke. He got the height, and neither Bob Costas nor I did. And then there are a few others that I would need to look up, but I think those two were always my go-tos in conversation.
Okay, and tell us about the surprise itself. Was your radar up?
Yes, my radar was up, but just
I
because
imagine it's hard to get a surprise past you, Zach.
well, hold on, sorry, my AirPod was falling out.
He wants this part of the segment to be over.
Yeah, I
So
do.
It's nice to keep dragging.
But
it
no,
on.
I actually I made a concerted I don't know if efforts right after the combine. I said I'm just going to lean into everything. Right, I'm not gonna change. I'm not gonna push back. I'm not gonna change. I'm just gonna lean into it, and so I'll play along with this. I figured this was coming.
Oh, you mean because of you saying the episode should be shorter?
Well, yeah, the nature of that podcast. So I said, right, like
shout out to Jessica, who said she felt very bad for me during that podcast,
and Zach, who gave us a little bit more detail about where that came from.
So in any event, yeah, I mean, she put on we have a joint calendar, Emily and I, right? And she put on the calendar like 3 months ago for this night. And I told her, it's free agency. I don't really know if I can do a double date that night, right? There's stuff that might happen. And she was like, this is the only night that the couple we were meeting in the story here could do it. And, and they really want to go to Tacanelli's, right? And now the two of you know my wife, our listeners don't. She's an amazing wife. She's not a big pizza eater. Okay. So like I knew that if she had her druthers, if she's planning something three months in advance or whatever, it's not gonna, she's not gonna say we need to go to Tacanelli's on this night. So I figured something might be up, but I try, you don't want to be a spoiled sport, number one, and you want to let it ride. And so I was letting it ride. I told Bo last week that I can't, I'm just tied up Friday night if something happens. I've realized now Bo knew. Bo asked what I was doing. I said I had a double date.
I did a whole pre-write for
Good
just
cover.
in case the Eagles signed CJ Gardner-Johnson.
And then we got to Tacanelli's and I walked in and
And there was Pat
before-
Shermer.
and the cake was there. So that's when I stopped and I was like, what'd you
Mm.
do? And then I turned the corner and I saw all these people that I love and that I appreciate. And yeah, it was so nice. So,
And it wasn't like a small party. It was like 40 people.
yeah, I got a big family. We
I
roll deep. So
understand that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And like she couldn't even have all my cousins in there because the room wouldn't fit it. Right. So it was nice.
Marissa, I don't want to gloss over a big moment here that just happened. If you're sort of read between the lines there, Zach, he sort of told us he loved us.
I actually did know, and he said that in person too. So I mean,
Yeah.
I'm feeling very special. Oh, we are forgetting one like huge part of the night. Emily's poem that she wrote. for Zach. I think
Yes.
Emily is the writer in the Berman household. Like,
she
I mean, Zach, you are a fabulous writer, but Emily wrote this rhyming poem to Zach. It had
Yeah.
a Birds with Friends mention in it. It was awesome.
she's incredible. So yeah, I'll defer to her on she's the everything of the house for sure.
The everything of the house. Okay.
The chat says we love you too, Zach.
Thank you. I appreciate it, chat. I appreciate our listeners.
How come nobody came?
I
It's
know.
a small room, 30 people.
The chat did say, where was our invite? So next year, next birthday, we'll have to, rent out a bigger room and invite all the sickos to come.
Yeah,
I think we'll just send them over to your house.
I think 2 surprise parties in 7 years hits the quota. Like I think we're
No,
we're-
that's
we're done with
the
surprises.
beauty of it is now you'll never expect another surprise party next year. And then she'll really get you.
Yeah. But there was big news in the days after, right? And that we can be sure to get to.
Nice try.
So-
All right. Let's take a break, Zach.
we didn't even get to the football news,
And we're going to talk about the Eagles in the middle portion of the show. Happy early birthday to our
Thank you.
beloved Zach Berman. If you're like me, you love spring, but you may not love figuring out how to take care of your yard. Does anyone else just stand there in the store wondering where to start? That's where Sunday Lawn Care comes in. Sunday is everything you need to get the lawn you've dreamed of. This spring, go to getsunday.com/birds and enter your address to get a customized plan created just for your lawn. No trips to the store or hauling heavy bags since they ship straight to your home. All you need is a hose to apply Sunday. You can fertilize your whole lawn in less time than it takes to watch an episode of your favorite TV show. Obviously, that's just a YouTube simulcast of Birds with Friends. Plus, they only use ingredients you can feel good about. No harsh chemicals, no long waiting periods, or trying to keep your kids and pets off the lawn. Simply apply, let it dry, and you're back to enjoying your yard. Sunday is easy and affordable. Some lawn care services cost more than 1,500 bones a year, but Sunday's full season plans start at just $109. Plus, Sunday is offering our listeners 20% off. Full season plans start at just $109, and you can get 20% off when you visit getsunday.com/birds at checkout. That's 20% off your custom plan at getsunday.com/boyds. All right, back on Birds with Friends. Bo, Zach, and Marissa, and I think the actual birthday present that Zach wants is for us to move on. And so let's send it over to the Stone Cold Newsman for the latest on what's happening with the NFC defending champions, Philadelphia Eagles.
Has it been a busy few days with the Eagles? Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, CJ Gardner-Johnson, signs with the Detroit Lions, a 1-year deal. We will get into that whole situation. Isaac Seumalo signs with the Pittsburgh Steelers on a 3-year deal. So 2 of the Eagles' top free agents depart elsewhere. The Eagles also lose Zach Pascal to the Arizona Cardinals in something that has a big effect in both the NFL and in Flu World Order.
Bigger in one than the other.
We saw the additions for the Eagles of multiple players, including in the past few hours, Nicholas Moreau. Is it Moreau or Moreau?
Oh, the right, Nicholas Morrow.
the linebacker from the Chicago Bears. Before that, to Raiders. Yesterday, Justin Evans, the safety.
Sorry, hold on. Is Justin Evans or Evan Justins?
It is Justin Evans, the safety from the New Orleans Saints. Before that, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers missed 3 seasons in the NFL while dealing with injury, but returned last year.
Does he have all his limbs?
Does he have his limbs? Yes.
I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Greedy Williams. Did we get to him in the previous podcast? I know we discussed Mariota.
Yeah.
Okay, so Greedy Williams and Mariota we discussed. So then Justin Evans and Nicholas Morrow are the 2 new ones, and then the 3 players who departed in that time since we last spoke. Back to you in the studio, Bo.
All right, Zach. Let's talk about Gardner-Johnson because I think that's the big thing here. An interesting sort of series of developments as he signs with the Lions on a 1-year, $6.5 million deal that I think can get up to $8 million. I think a surprise to everybody that was the deal that he had to settle for. This allows him to get back into the market, but definitely less than everybody was expecting. Jeff McClain reported of the Inquirer that the Eagles made Gardner-Johnson a multi-year offer in the beginning of free agency. Gardner-Johnson declined it, and so they moved on and pivoted to bringing back James Bradbury instead, and then eventually re-signing or extending Darius Slay.
I can confirm that as well.
His agents said that the Eagles had a chance to match the Lions offer and declined to do so. I believe Jim Trotter reported that, and then his agents also tweeted the difference between what they said was the 3-year offer that was very backloaded, and Sam Lynch has sort of explained that that's not really a possible contract structure. So that's a little bit misleading. I think the overarching thing that we can tell here is that the Eagles were interested to some degree in bringing Gardner-Johnson back, maybe not overwhelmingly interested. And as the discussions got, it was clear that they were apart on what the market was going to be. Howie Roseman probably read the market better, and they moved on. And this is now the second team in the past 7 months that has started contract negotiations with CJ Gardner-Johnson and then opted to just sort of let him go somewhere else.
Yes, I think that's a good summary there. I did a little digging on what occurred. I think your timeline there made sense. They were interested from the start. Like this is not a situation where you can say, well, the Eagles didn't want him. The Eagles wanted him. They wanted him at the start of free agency. But
I think we can say that, though.
So the Eagles, they offered him a deal at the start of free agency, a multi-year deal. They felt it was a competitive offer. CJ had a different sense of his value. And look, I was with CJ in that sense. I thought he was going to make $10 million plus. And that was not the case. And the thing about free agency is, for better or for worse, the league tells you what you're worth, right? It's the Jalen Rose line. You're worth what someone's willing to pay you. And 32 teams told you what they felt CJ Gardner-Johnson's value was in the NFL this year, or at least early in free agency. In my experience covering free agency, a player's value seldom goes up as the week progresses, right? Like what you are the day free agency begins is probably the most valuable you're going to be.
There was a good little nugget in Peter King's column this week in which he talked to David Cantor about just how quickly things happen in those first 2 hours, and that's it, that's your shot. And I think amazing. That's instructive.
Yeah, I was actually going to bring this up on the show. It was with Cameron Sutton. Yeah. I can't decide what to eat at a restaurant that fast. And all of a sudden, it's like... And
he's telling Cameron Sutton where he's going. He didn't even tell him.
Exactly. He's like, you're going to the Lions.
Yeah, you're a Detroit Lion. Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing to me how it's not even a decision. It's just go where the best offer is, right?
Now you would imagine that they had that conversation ahead of time. I want whatever the best offer, the most guaranteed money is,
Yeah.
But
true. It's like Jason Kelsey wasn't saying to his agent, go find out where, if the Arizona Cardinals need a center. But no, so they were interested at the beginning. The Eagles couldn't wait around. We spoke last week about the James Bradbury contract and then the Slay situation. And the Eagles have had a certain amount of money that then allocated to the secondary. And CJ Gardner-Johnson had this tweet back in January. He's had a lot of tweets, right? And whether that's factored into it depends upon who you ask. But he had a tweet back in January where he said, like, my price today was not my price yesterday. And that was a very apt tweet, because I think that's kind of what happened here with Eagles was that as the market evolved, they, the offer kind of, the offer was different. I can't tell you if CJ took it personally, but in the end, CJ decided, to go to Detroit. I do think, the Eagles wanted him. They gave him an offer at the start of free agency. But as things progressed, you only have X amount of dollars to spend, and they spent them elsewhere. Now, the contract, where I do agree with you, is the contract that he signed was not prohibitive, right? Like if they wanted to get in on it, then I'm sure things could have been done. But if that was the price a week ago, I still think he would have been on the Eagles.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. I think like if they had offered, if he was willing to accept one for 6.5 up to 8 on Monday, then he would have been with the Eagles. Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah.
But I think it tells you that, I mean, the way it played out, it's like they wanted him, sort of, right? Like, and the more back and forth, it's very similar to what happened with the Saints, right? Like, they were also trying to negotiate a long-term deal with him, and then decided to trade him for 2 late-round picks. And so, I don't know. I mean, I think the one thing that we have not really like dived into with regard to CJ Gardner-Johnson is, like, was he that good of a player? Now, because he's exactly the kind of guy who you want to keep around, because he's 25 years old and he's versatile, and he's mostly durable, and he brings this energy that Nick Sirianni loves. But, like, he was not the most reliable player last year. He made big plays, but, like, how many of those plays could not have been made by somebody else? Now, probably not by Justin Evans. We can get to that, but I don't know. It's like everything else. It's a risk reward calculus for the team.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Now, I thought he was a good player, and I thought he has high upside. He's young, ascending. He was his first time as a full-time player at that position in the NFL. But there are a lot of factors that go into giving someone a long-term deal. And also,
there's that Roman Harper clip that's going around.
Yeah.
Talking about money makes you more of who you are. And
exactly.
Worried about signing him. I don't know.
Yeah, that's an expression that I think I've used it on this podcast. And, like, I believe it, that money doesn't change you. It just makes you more of what you are. And if I'm certainly not going to impugn CJ Gardner-Johnson. But if someone is a big personality in a contract year, let's say, they're going to be probably a bigger personality when they're paid. And for better or for worse, are parts of CJ's personality that we've talked about were very beneficial to the team, like you mentioned, in terms of bringing the energy. But there's 2 sides of everything, right? So I think the Eagles are a worse football team without him than with him. But it is still March 21st. They don't play a game for 5+ months. There's time here to regroup. What I will add is that, I said earlier, free agency gives you a chance to see how the league values you. And this is the part of the whole Darius Slay thing, right? When the Eagles gave him a chance to seek a trade and then said they were going to cut him, part of him coming back was seeing what the market was out there. Mm-hmm. He had the chance to see the market out there. It was, part of it might have been he likes Philadelphia and he likes playing here, but you also see what your options are. And often you're as loyal as your options. So I think it's certainly not a stretch to say that CJ misread the market, which, like I said, I misread the market too with
Well,
the
sort of
safeties.
his representation. I mean,
Yeah,
that's their
no,
job.
yeah. So safeties are as a position group, a depressed market this year, right? That position's not getting paid the way they have in past years of free agency. But if
I mean, he
someone
got less
out,
guaranteed money than Marcus Epps.
yeah, yeah. I mean, if
Marcus Epps
someone
signed a
out there,
2-year deal, but still, like,
if someone out there thought CJ Gardner-Johnson was a $12 million a year player, then he'd be a $12 million a year player right now, right?
yeah. Now it's also not perfect, right? It's not a perfect market. I mean, there are reasons why,
Sure.
Shaq Barrett signs for $1 million and then goes and gets like 19 sacks, or
But then the market
Michael
corrects
Dunn
itself.
is on the periphery of the league and then comes in and dominates a playoff game.
Yeah, but the market corrects itself in the case of Barrett. Hopefully, in the case of Dunn as well.
I mean, yeah, eventually, maybe, but then it's not perfect.
Yeah.
You don't have to be all Munger on me.
No, but I'm not saying how good a player is. Like, a player ultimately shows
Yeah, sure,
how valuable he is.
absolutely.
I'm saying what his market value is.
Yeah.
I mean, there are 32 employers here who decide what someone's worth.
Yeah, I think it's weird how it played out.
Mm-hmm.
And let me ask you this: would you feel differently about the team if right now they had CJ Gardner-Johnson and not James Bradbury? It was everything else was the exact same. It was just CJ Gardner-Johnson was here and James Bradbury was not.
It's interesting you bring that up because, like, that's what I thought it was going to be going into free agency. Right.
That would have been yeah.
Yeah, I didn't think Bradbury was coming back. I thought either Gardner-Johnson or Hargrave would come back. I thought there was a chance that none of them would come back, but I thought they would try to keep one of those two. And I didn't expect TJ or Miles. I figured if Hargrave wasn't back, there's a chance Cox would be back. But yeah, I would probably rather have the safety in there. I shouldn't say the safety because the corner is a more important position. I'd rather have the 25-year-old in there. But Bradbury also got less than I anticipated. I think Bradbury's deal is very fair for the type of player that he is.
Yeah, I think that's right. I don't know. I think. I mean, you would have had to do something else at cornerback, probably along the lines of a Nicholas Morrow type. But I think I would probably feel better about the long-term defense and about the same about the state of the 2023 defense.
Yeah. I see what you're saying there, and
I think right now, I mean, listen, there's a long way to go in the offseason. We know this. We can keep hammering this home. Things are going to change. The Eagles are not going to trot out, Nakobe Dean and Nicholas Morrow and Justin Evans and Reed Blankenship as their starters on week 1. But I think this defense, as like presently constructed and the way that it's leaning towards being constructed, is probably going to be very familiar in its weaknesses to Eagles fans.
I'd agree.
Because I think they're going to be bad in the middle of the field. And we've seen that before.
Yes. Now, and we can get to this with Justin Evans. I don't think they're finished at corner. I don't think there's like this great linebacker walking through the door next week. Like it would surprise me if they signed Bobby Wagner at this point, right?
Yeah.
I still think there are additions to be made at safety.
Mr. Morrow, your tea is ready.
I still think there are additions to be made at safety. So perhaps that safety spot looks better. Also, I like.
They're definitely not done at safety. Justin Evans is like sub Andrew Adams.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, and we also we talked about Avonte Maddox last week. We did a lot of episodes last week. And when you talk about Avonte Maddox at safety, it doesn't necessarily need to be in a full-time role. It could be in kind of that hybrid role they were using him, where he's a safety on base downs, or I don't even know what base is anymore, but he's a safety when you have 4 defensive backs on the field, and he's in the slot when you have 5 defensive backs on the field. And then your second safety is really your third safety. It could be something like that. And that's a way to make Maddox a 3-down player for you. So there are different, and we saw that last year, and they did it effectively. So there are different variations that they could do, but I still think they're adding the safety.
Yeah, they're 100% going to add another safety.
Yeah.
I mean, the room right now is Reed Blankenship, Kayvon Wallace, and Justin Evans.
No, but they're adding a safety above.
And Josiah Scott, if you want.
Yeah, they're adding a safety above the guys that are there.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. They're going to add somebody better than Justin Evans.
Yes, correct.
No doubt. And we've written about some of the trade possibilities who are out there. There are still guys on the market who are, better than Justin Evans. Who do I like? I think I would probably take a shot on Taylor Rapp. He hasn't signed yet, right?
Now he visited the Patriots, but I don't know if I don't know if they signed him.
I think I would probably roll the dice on that.
Okay.
Otherwise, like Adrian Amos is fine for a 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
Slightly above Anthony Harris level player.
I like John Johnson III.
Yeah, I know you do.
Yeah.
Thomas.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you know about Nicholas Morrow?
What do I know? You actually wrote nicely about him. I found that in my archives. Going into free agency last year, was he coming off an injury?
Oh yeah.
But he's someone. I think he was a profile player that you liked.
Did I?
I would just look that up, but yeah, okay. I did. I think, and he's from a small college, Greenville, I think it is, and he didn't start playing linebacker until later on. Was undrafted. Really came on with the Raiders. He's fast. He signed a 1 year deal with Chicago last year, and played like every snap for them basically.
The Eagles' new Nichols coach would have been there.
Yep, and he had his best game of the season against the Eagles, or at least his most production. Had 11 tackles and a tackle for a loss. But he was an every down player for them last season. So
he missed the entire 2021 season with a foot injury, but has otherwise, and I know this is a little bit, but for that, but other than that, he's only missed 2 games in 5 years.
Yep.
So
he's on the slighter side. He's not your 250-pound guy. But he ran at Northwestern's pro day, I believe it was, 4.53. And now it needs to be taken with a grain of salt here. One, they have a dubious history of signing linebackers. They hit on Kaiser White last year, I thought, but still they have a dubious history of signing linebackers. And number 2, the Bears specifically sought to upgrade over him.
Right. Twice.
And including the guy who used to play for the Eagles. Yes. Right. So, I mean, that's the Bears making their evaluation of someone who was in their building. Yes. This wasn't the type of thing, when the Eagles signed Kaiser White the year before, it wasn't like the Chargers sought to upgrade over him. The Chargers had a first-round pick who they were going to play, and they were paying other spots. This is a spot where the Bears specifically said, we need to upgrade a linebacker.
All space in the world, yeah.
Yeah, and therefore we're going to pay, a Tremaine Edmonds and TJ Edwards. So that must be taken into account. But he has experience. He can run. He's 27 years old. Let's see what he can do. Turns 28 in July, I believe. So we should, based on the and I like the bowl criteria, we should call him 28 because he'll be 28 during the season, or like when the season starts.
It's a little similar to the 2018, 2017 Super Bowl criteria, but we care about the season.
Yep.
I think your expectations for Nicholas Morrow should be Eric Wilson. That's
okay.
Don't you think?
Yeah, very similar actually.
I mean, right now he's the best linebacker on the team, because we don't know what to expect from Nakobe Dean. That's a total unknown, and we've already talked about it. But the expected jump for Jordan Davis and Nakobe Dean is huge for the defense this year. Right now, Nicholas Morrow is the best linebacker on the team, but he also might not make the team.
Yeah, or he might start the season and then not last.
Right, and I think it would probably be a disappointment if he's a week 1 starter.
Yeah. Okay, who would you want that second starter to be?
I don't know. Probably somebody that they draft.
Someone that they draft. Okay. I mean, they don't have a lot of picks.
Christian
Ellis. They can trade back. I don't know. I think it's fine to expect him to be a week. I think it's a problem if he's your best linebacker at the end of the year. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
If Nakobe Dean doesn't outplay him, that's problematic.
I would say so. Yeah. All right. Anything else you want to talk about? Justin Evans?
Yeah, I would just say don't view this signing as the Gardner-Johnson replacement. This is a depth guy who can contribute on special teams. He'll compete to make the roster, but he's not your answer at safety.
Who's your favorite Evan?
Evan, my neighbor across the street growing up, Evan Cohen. So that's my favorite Evan.
Marissa?
The first one that came to mind was one of the husbands on Real Housewives of New Jersey. I don't know if he's my favorite, but Evan Goldschneider, big fan.
Evan Goldschneider. Evan Parter, probably the best basketball player I played with growing up. Dynamic slashing guard on our Jubal team. Daniel Marcus Toll, the other star of that team. Classic.
You weren't?
Small forward. I was doing the dirty work, yeoman, sort of like the Charles Oakley, undersized four, getting the boards, and filling it up when I needed to. Could be a point forward if I needed to.
Everyone's a role player. That's the way it should be.
You know who's going to be really upset about this conversation?
Who?
A certain Belvedere-loving, recently married person. That's all.
Okay. What? Quite the tease there.
They think you could put that together? All right. What about Jalen Mills? Would you sign Jalen Mills, Zach?
I know you would. You're all about this.
I love Jalen Mills, man. I love Jalen Mills.
I do too.
I'm in the tank for Jalen Mills.
I like Jalen Mills too, though. I would sign John Johnson.
He's better than Justin Evans.
Sure, he's gonna get paid more than Justin Evans, I imagine too.
Yeah, but probably not. I mean, what's he gonna get? $1.5 million?
Good question.
I think I'd rather have him than John Johnson.
Okay.
Sorry.
There's one other thing I wanted to ask you. Isaac Seumalo, he left. Are we assuming that's Cam Jurgens' spot?
Yeah. I think that's like, unless they draft a guy in the first round, I think it's almost done and dusted. I think they want him on the field. They want Cam Jurgens on the field. I think they're very high on him internally, maybe more than anybody else in that rookie class. And I think they want him on the field. Yes.
I think you got Cam Jurgens at right guard. Jack Driscoll's your swing guy. The wild card to watch, though, is if that's, Paris Johnson or Peter Skorinsky. Did I pronounce it correctly? Is it Skorinsky?
You tell me.
I think it's Skoronsky.
Skoronsky. Thank you. Great story by Dan Pompei on The Athletic. Make sure you check that out on Peter Skoronsky. So if it's one of them at number 10, it's a different conversation. Barring that, then I would say it's Cam Jurgens.
Yeah, I think for sure. Okay.
I was on Pittsburgh radio yesterday, and they asked me.
Big flex.
I suppose so. Whenever a guy, I have friends who are friends from college who are radio hosts in different cities, and if they text me, I always say yes to those guys. Wow. Danny Parkins, Andrew Filipponi, yeah, for sure. But no, they were asking about the Isaac Seumalo, Nate Herbig combination, and this is like the Andy Weidel effect in Pittsburgh. Yeah,
you should wait till you get those guys in water and watch them float.
I did not say that. I said Andy wasn't there when they drafted Isaac, but he saw firsthand. I said I could see that with Nate, but I mentioned I name checked you twice. I said my colleague Bo Wulf at The Athletic had, I think, the perfect description for Isaac Seumalo, which is he's the offensive lineman's offensive lineman. And then I gave other references to your story. I said to make sure to check that out.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, so if you get a Pittsburgh bump this week, it's from that talk radio spot.
The joke I made in our thing the other day was to be a fly on the wall to hear the conversation between Isaac Seumalo and Nate Herbig when they're reunited.
Yes.
Before we get to Brendan Quinn, a quick update on the Birds with Friends bracket challenge. Shout out to Alaska Bird, who is leading. However, Alaska Bird has Arizona as his or her champion. So unlikely to be pulling it down. Several teams in second place, including Eagles fan in Tennessee, the Classy Giants, and ESPN 644-692941.
I'm in 212th out of
Ooh,
250 something we have in here.
I'm in 70th.
Yeah, not great. I had Purdue winning it all. So
What am I in? Let me pull this up here. Let's see. We are in the Birds with Friends bracket. I am 9th place.
wow.
You're in 9th place?
Yeah,
He's in
tied for
9th
ninth.
place.
But-
Tied with the student union in 9th place.
Yes.
The student
Yeah.
union.
But
Banana pudding.
I only have 1280 as my max, and so some of the teams ahead of me, are like the
Yes.
Pazuki King here has 1520 max points, but you never know. You never know. So
Zach, how upset were you after the fact to realize that I was nudging you to get your haircut for the party?
yeah, I was. I was a little like,
No, you should just go for it.
I was a little taken aback by how much of a vested interest you had. You were like, I was making a joke how I'm usually on like an every 3-week schedule, but I pushed it back because we're out of town for the owners meetings, and then I'm in Florida with my in-laws, so I'm gonna stretch it out a week. And Bo's like, that's not a reason not to. You should go to the party. You should go today. And I was like, whoa.
Now look out for Emily.
Yeah. So yeah, I probably should have done it, but
Okay.
oh well, it was a nice party nonetheless.
That's for sure. I know that's right. Okay.
Wait, real quick. Did Marissa? Oh, I'm sorry, Marissa. I don't. I was going to ask you about your Takanelli's eating experience. I'm sorry about that.
No, it's okay.
Okay.
Everyone else loved the
Okay.
pizza. I have celiac, so
Yeah.
it's understandable that I can't have this, Zach. It's not a big deal. But everyone seemed to love it. I mean, the pizzas looked amazing, and the cake looked amazing too.
I didn't think you needed to throw such a fit though, Marissa. I mean,
No. I'm sorry. I didn't mean.
Yeah.
Did you smell like garlic the whole next day?
I didn't notice.
Okay.
But
Maybe the others around
I was
him
happy
noticed.
to. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, the
Yeah.
place was
I love
great.
Takanelli's.
Love Takanelli's. I will gladly give a shout out to Takanelli's.
Did you get to take some home, Zach?
We did. Yeah, we did. I knocked that out the next day, and then
Nice.
and now trying to eat a little better before going out of town. So
Get that cookie skillet in Arizona.
that'd be great
Have you
if I
booked
could
your
go.
hotel yet, Zach?
I was going to text you about that. Yeah, I was going to give you some options.
Okay.
I
I'll
was
sleep
going
in
to
your
say,
room.
of course he has. He probably booked it like 3 months
No, I
ago.
asked him
No,
last
no.
week and he hadn't booked it yet.
Yeah, well,
Wow.
because there's two hotels I was hoping to get into one of them that are closer, and I need that price to get down. And the way, I don't know, we're showing how the tofu is made here. The way our system is that if you book a hotel and then you cancel it, you need to resubmit your whole trip for
Yes.
approval. And so
Mm.
it's like you can only pull, you can only make that decision one time. It used to be you can just book and then cancel and rebook, but with our new protocol in place, if you want to change hotels, you gotta get like approval from up top on it. So you got to make sure you know.
You
what
think
you're doing
Friedman
when you-
follows the same rules?
Thomas? I don't. I think they use a different system
Okay.
than we do. So yeah,
That's too bad.
I'll send him an email and ask. Right?
Yeah. All right. Okay. Let's head to break. That'll be the end of the proper Eagles discussion. And on the other side, we'll bring in Brendan Quinn for a little college basketball, a little golf, a little Eagles fandom talk, fun conversation. Stay tuned for that on the other side.
Show is brought to you by BetterHelp. I'm always trying to learn and grow, whether as a writer, a reporter, a podcaster, a father, a husband, a friend, you name it. Getting to know yourself can be a lifelong process, especially because we're always growing and changing. You want to always strive to be a better version of yourself. Well, therapy is another way of deepening your self-awareness and understanding, because sometimes we don't know what we want or why we react the way we do until we talk through things. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who can take you on that journey of self-discovery from wherever you are. Therapy is helpful for learning positive coping skills and how to set boundaries. It empowers you to be the best version of yourself, and it isn't just for those who've experienced major trauma. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, and it's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Discover your potential with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/BWF today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/BWF. Now, our next partner is a pretty cool product. Let's talk about Athletic Greens. If you're looking to get better gut health, more energy, or a stronger immune system in a really easy, natural way, you must check out Athletic Greens. I'm sure you'll all agree that most of us are not huge fans of having to take a bunch of pills or vitamins in the morning. But with Athletic Greens, you can get rid of all those extra vitamin bottles and finally make some room in your cabinet. Athletic Greens is an all-in-one solution, and you'll really enjoy getting your daily vitamins. I heard about it from my sister's boyfriend this summer who kept raving about Athletic Greens, and I was wondering, what is this stuff? Well, with one delicious scoop of Athletic Greens, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging. All of these. And with Athletic Greens, it's lifestyle friendly. Whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free, it contains less than 1 gram of sugar. There's no GMOs, no nasty chemicals or artificial anything. And it supports better sleep quality and recovery, supports mental clarity and alertness. It's the one thing with the best things. Athletic Greens uses the best of the best products based on the latest science with constant product and third-party testing. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition, especially heading into flu and cold season. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is giving you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/birds. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/birds to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance.
All right, back on Birds with Friends. Very pleased to be joined now by Brendan Quinn of The Athletic. Brendan, first of all, thank you for joining us. Thank you for being a part-time sicko.
I mean, damn near full-time. It's close. It's up there. Since I got a dog, now it's like locked in.
Okay.
Before it would be, after a loss, not listening. Midsummer, probably not tuning in.
Understand.
But once Aurora, my wonderful dog, entered the picture, now it's a game changer. So it is, those like hour, 45-minute guys. And there's none of this 1.25 nonsense
really?
happening. No.
Wow.
Full. I'm a little bit concerned about you, Zach. Can we talk about this for a second?
Let's get into it.
Fire away.
I know like 3 people that listen at non-normal speed to podcasts. And I'm like genuinely concerned about all of them.
Really?
Yeah. I just don't understand how you process, how you listen, how you enjoy it. Like are you just
marinate? You want to
yeah.
So let me ask you this, and I ask this honestly, okay? Because I'm a BQ sicko here.
By the way, this is Bizarro World actually doing this, but go ahead.
I followed your whole career here. So when you went down to Tennessee, okay?
Yeah.
When you moved to Tennessee, and I lived in the South, not as South as Tennessee, but they tend to speak slower down there, right?
They do.
Did it sound differently to you?
Without question. And I had a radio show in Knoxville.
Okay.
That just no one could really handle. It did not go well.
So it's it's the same premise that your mind can get used to anything, right? Well, I don't want to say anything, but the more you listen to it, the more your mind gets used to it and you process it no differently than if someone from Knoxville if they moved to Philadelphia.
Interesting.
I find it very difficult to like adjust speeds on a show that I've been listening to. But if I start a show at like 1.2 speed or whatever, something like that, then it's fine because I don't know any different. But like if I'm hearing like the intro song of a show that I'm used to and all of a sudden it's like sped up, I feel like what's going on? It's very distracting.
Yeah, the intro song, you definitely notice it.
I mean, that's a 30-second.
Exactly. People who you only know from a podcast, when you meet them in person and you're used to them on like 1.5 or
like when you had dinner with Joe Rogan.
No, but there are podcast hosts that if I met them in person, I would even say this: if I met JJ Redick in person, okay, he would speak much slower than I'm used to hearing because I'm used to hearing him on 1.5 or 1.25.
Okay. It just feels like a mouth on a fire hose situation. You're just getting blasted with information. But you're very clearly a very well-read man.
Well, I would like if
how else could he get to all the information he needs without being that efficient?
And look at this bookshelf. I mean, we have no room for trinkets. That is books.
Of all the things you can get on me on, please let it be the podcast speed and the books that I read, right? Like I will gladly wear those. There are other things that I could hear that might pierce a bit, but those I'm cool with.
I would never get that personal. I think you guys are great. I am going to embarrass you both. This is a wonderful podcast. I really do enjoy it. It's not it is because I'm an Eagles guy, but it's also very well produced, and it's the organic awkwardness is just peak. I mean, it's right down the middle of the zone.
That's what Zach wants to get rid of. He wants less.
Well, guess what, big boy? You got to give the people what they want.
The Mutual Appreciation Society thing can get a little gross, but I think I already said it. But I would say for my money, BQ is if not the best, one of the best writers we have at the whole company. So I would imagine that most people are reading you, but says
a lot about the company, Bo.
Well, I mean that's true. We can't all be Tom Friedman.
I would second that with Bo, that we all can't be Tom Friedman, and that BQ is as good as there is in this company. I mean, I could fill this podcast up with Brendan Quinn stories. So
I'd really appreciate if we didn't do
like
that.
Stories about him or
no stories that I mean.
That's why I left town.
Yeah. I could fill this up with questions about the Juwan Howard story, right? The mechanics of it, the reporting of it. So this is cool for me too.
Brendan, Peckness Migrate, covering the NCAA tournament, covering the Masters, and covering the Super Bowl.
Peck, the NCAA tournament.
Okay.
Migrate the Masters.
Okay.
Or nest the Masters.
Nest the Masters.
And migrate the Super Bowl. Because here's the thing. Unless a specific team is in it, I don't care about this. I don't really care about I'll watch it. I'll lose money on it, right? But other than that, by the way, Zach, you have me very conscious about the fact that I end sentences with right. You have
we're all a little bit Casey Toohill every now and then.
You and me both.
Man, the synapses fire every single time I'm an offender. But yeah, for sure. I mean, nothing's better than the Masters, and the NCAA tournament is just unbelievably great to cover. Even though my location last week, frankly, sucked. But what do you?
Well, I do have to ask you this on behalf of Marissa, who is not with us for the segment. What was your best? Do you have a good story from watching Maryland up close for 2 games?
I mean, the fact that Kevin Willard can fill a notebook. That guy, he's like old school 80s Big East, no filter, does not care. Just went on a rant about the refs. Like, it takes amazing balls to complain about the officiating when you lose by 20. And my man Kevin Willard just got up there and was like, I can't believe they called a third foul on Julian Reese in the first half. It's unacceptable. Right. It changed the game, and I feel like we could have hung around. And I'm like, I don't know. I think it might have had something to do with the fact that Alabama's got like NBA players and All-Americans all over the court, maybe the best player in college basketball, and basically ran you off the floor in the second half. But yeah, that was a bad foul call, I guess. So Kevin Willard's old school Big East, and I appreciate that. Like, it reminded me of the days of covering the Big East, right when I was out of school, when you could like go to media day and you would go to Jim Calhoun's table, and he would like just openly talk smack about like Jim Boeheim, and then you could just go over to Jim Boeheim. Right. Yes, but you could go over to Jim Boeheim and be like, "Hey, Jim Calhoun just said this," and then he would just fire right back, and then the whole pack, right, would just go back over to Calhoun. Like that's what we want. That's college basketball, not these like CEO types with their tailored suits. I want frumpy suits, and I want them to say a lot.
I feel like you're speaking Zach's language here.
Yeah.
I love those. I mean, I grew up watching those great Big East games, and I was at those Big East media days early on. Well, I shouldn't say early on in my career, not early on in the Big East, but where the coaches were at those tables, and you would go back and forth. I remember I asked Boeheim about that beach trip with Patino, and I thought it was like the most original question because Jack McCollum wrote about it like 10 years earlier. I didn't realize this is something he talks about every single time someone asks about staying at Syracuse. If I can circle back to the Masters, I'm not a golf guy. You can sell me on why you're nesting the Masters, number one. But in addition to that, I am a food guy, and I've read dozens of stories about this pimento cheese sandwich. Am I framing it correctly? Is it that good, or is it just one of these sports writers' things that they like a pimento cheese sandwich?
The pimento is overrated right off the bat. Here's the thing about the Masters. It takes a level of cognitive dissonance that like is at the highest degree because 100%. So much of it is gross. Like, it's really gross. Everything's so prim and proper, and I don't know. It's like a very, it's like a vibe of like colonialism, or I don't know. I don't know what the right word is.
It's very Stepfordy.
Like, man, it's something else. It's really, it's not a vibe, especially for anyone from where we're from. And you know, at the same time, it's just amazing. Like the course, if you're a golf person that is into golf course architecture and the courses themselves, which also a lot of people find gross, and that's fine, but the course is amazing, and it is the greatest atmosphere to watch golf in because there's no phones allowed on the course, which is like by far my most favorite thing. I wrote like a 2,500 word feature a couple years ago about how the psychology of watching a sport without a phone, where I ended up like talking to all these psychologists and all this stuff, and like how we interpret what's in front of us and blah, 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 you know, whatever. But in terms of like a viewing and interactive experience, like you are there. The course is amazing. And like everywhere you look, there's a memory. It's like, oh, I remember that guy hit the shot right there. I remember that guy hit that shot right there. And yeah, it's, I don't know. It's Augusta. It's the Masters. It's like, it's just golf at the, at its worst and at its best all at once.
Yeah. At its most golf.
Very much so.
Yeah. I think that's right. So we, this is a bit of a thread, but the year before my mom died, we happened to like sort of accidentally, but then on purpose, go to each of the 4 golf majors together. And the Masters is like, it's so sterile, and it's so like made for TV when you first get there. Like the trees are not that tall, right? And you can see the whole course when you're in certain different places. But like then the longer you're there, the more entrenched you get into it, and it's just as you described. Although I would say that I'm a British Open man based on the
I've not been.
we had in the rain and Troon. Like you want to talk about the other end of like the most golf you can get. That was fun. But anyway,
haven't had the pleasure. For all subscribers out there, if you think it's ridiculous that I have not been sent to cover an Open Championship yet, I encourage you to reach out to your local athletic offices and petition for this year. You know, I'm still working on it.
I think the Sulzenbergers are sickos. They're watching. So
Are they?
that's good to know. Yeah, it's good to know. How about your take on what's going on with the Eagles as an Eagles fan? What did you think of like the season that had and seeing all these faces now go? What do you make of the offseason so far?
The season was awesome. I had very moderate expectations. Kind of wanted to see the playoffs. It was. I think I was like probably like a lot of people of, kind of like the idea of Hurts, but like how reasonable is it to have like a real expectation that this is the second round pick that everyone kind of lampooned is going to be the guy?
Yeah.
Or is it going to be get enough value out of him to make him a commodity you can deal for more picks and are just constantly kind of starting over at quarterback? And I live in Detroit, right? So there's like a lot of kind of crossover on that idea of kind of weighing the value of getting a franchise quarterback and how do you actually do it. So watching from afar was awesome. And part of like being along for the ride with the Eagles is, I'm 40 years old. All my old buddies are back home in Philly, and there's a couple scattered across the country, and we have our group text going. And like, I'm pretty sure if it weren't for the Eagles, no one would actually speak to each other.
Right.
It would just be, we would eventually show up together at a reunion and, have a great time or reconnect when everyone's kids were older.
That's
whatever.
bonding.
But
That's
it's so the point is, the better the Eagles are, the more communication there is amongst a bunch of people who all love each other and would all like jump in front of a bus for each other. So I'm really glad.
Really bad.
Really, right? Exactly. It's either fire the coach or we're going to win the whole.
We're
going to win the Super Bowl. Like just missing the playoff by a game that does nothing for anybody. So it was great to see that they were awesome. But this off season's been, I don't know. I think I already accepted the reality of full reset. Like they might have to take a step back, take a step forward, and all these new faces, and you can't re-sign everybody. And I thought you guys had a really interesting conversation about like the idea of, not making any emotional signings, which just seems so hard, when you have success to then just be like, well, it wasn't you. It was how we used you. And, that's the cold part of sports and really any business, frankly. But, you just can't get – there's a few you can get attached to, and otherwise you just kind of say goodbye. Like Hargrave, you're like, yeah, man, that was awesome. But I don't think anyone was like crestfallen by having to say goodbye because it's just reasonable. It's kind of – I feel like we understand so much more about contract structures and what actually goes into these decisions versus just like they wanted this player and they didn't want that player.
I want to dig into something you said in passing there, because I tend to ask a lot of our guests this, and I'm fascinated by the fan experience outside of Philadelphia, for the reason that you alluded to. So much of the fan experience in Philadelphia is that community feeling, is seeing people, on the street, at Wawa, wherever you might go, and kind of having that galvanizing presence. What's it like when you were in Tennessee, when you're in Michigan, when you leave, this for lack of a better term, like incubator, right? Yeah. And you bring that fanaticism outside of the area's limits?
So one of the things that can be rough is the rep that the city carries, and you don't want to play into the stereotypes of being being like, it's almost like don't give the people what they want, right? Like
Right.
they want you to be a loud mouth or an asshole or whatever. And the hard part is though, like sometimes that is who you are. You are, and you can't really help it. So you end up kind of doubling down on it. But look, like my family, I'm one of 6, and my 5 siblings all live within 15. Exactly, and my 5 siblings all live within 15 minutes of each other, and 15 minutes of my father, and most of the guys I grew up with are all still within a half an hour of each other, and so it's hard being away to the point where like for the 18 Super Bowl, or I forget which one have you guys agreed? What year do we refer to it?
It's the 2017 Super Bowl.
Okay, fine.
It just
The
happened in the year
2017
of
Super
2017,
Bowl. It got to like Thursday of that week, and I couldn't handle it. I booked a ticket just to fly home to watch the game. Like, and I didn't go home for the parade or anything. I just wanted to be with, the people that I love to watch the game. And it's just so weird that it's football, like a game that, like, I'm not a huge football fan. Like, I'm an Eagles fan. I'm not a football fan. I'm an Eagles fan. Like, I'll watch college football games, but like, I will not watch Bucks Cowboys on a Monday. Like, sit down and watch. I just don't care. There's just something about, for me, how much you grew up with it, and like, not to get like super deep, but like, Bo, you just brought up like losing your mom. Like, so lost my mom this winter and went home to, obviously go through that. And it was during the playoff run. And one of, sorry, that's actually my voice getting caught. It's not me getting emotional. But like one of the nights during that process was one of the playoff games, and the whole family was together to watch the Eagles game. And there was like, I stepped back for a minute and be like, and was just thinking, it's just crazy that this is such a communal thing, an emotional thing, like something that everyone can kind of just get behind. And, I make fun of sports as much as anyone else. And really, like, the Eagles are the only thing I give myself for the most part. Like I'll watch the Phillies and all of that, but like, there's no chance of me ever covering the NFL ever in a million years. Like, it would be malpractice for someone to hire me to cover football because I just don't understand it at any, solid level. So, I'm comfortable doing that, right? Like, I could never be that way with the Sixers because, basketball is too much of a cross section with me, and it's just not as emotional, to be perfectly honest. It's just there's something different about the Eagles. There's something different about how I think we all as a city just feel it. I don't know. I have a hard time explaining it, and there is a lot of that in other cities. There's a lot of it here in Detroit, and I want to see the Lions win so much just to see how it would react, because we have felt it of being the city that people kind of love to shit on, and then you win, and you're just like, it just makes it so much better.
Is it football in Detroit?
Without question. I mean, it's the same. It's the same as back home. Like, everyone, Pistons cool, Lions cool. Or I'm sorry, like Pistons cool, Tigers cool. Red Wings are kind of like the Flyers that have that just dedicated fan base that'll sell out the place. But it's hockey, so it's going to be just a smaller percentage of people. I have a theory that like the reason that the University of Michigan is such a huge brand is because the Lions sucked for so long that football is such a big deal in Southeast Michigan and such a part of like the Midwest that, well, the Lions were never a threat. So Michigan and Bo Schembechler's personality and the fact that they were successful, really, state secret without actually winning that many national championships. But Bo, a lot of wins, the rivalry with Ohio State, like that is what I think has elevated. If the Lions were incredible, I don't know what Michigan would be just brand wise, So it is the same out here.
I think that's interesting. I sort of felt that at the Super Bowl, and Zach, you weren't there because you had your good front row seat. I was all the way back in the nosebleeds in the press box, but
you were actually seating people, right, Bo? From what
that's right. Yeah, I was ushering. But like just at kickoff, and like we saw like Nick Sirianni crying, but like it does hit you that like for everybody in the building, this is like the most important thing. Like this is like the apex of everything, and that does, I don't know, that sort of hits you a little bit.
Yeah, I mean,
Zach,
I feel
been there, done that,
ridiculous.
Zach,
I feel ridiculous with it sometimes, like myself. But then it's also like you're kind of lying to yourself. Like every year I'm at the Final Four. Yeah,
Flex.
yeah, you're damn right. Like during the national anthem, like I make sure to stop.
Yeah.
And like remember, like the 12-year-old, who would have been like, what? You're just sitting behind, Bill Self by 8 feet. You're just at the Final Four, just in your normal seat. No big deal.
Right.
It is a big deal, and it's awesome. So, like that's the one time every year on the basketball side of things where I'm like, make sure, like, don't be the dick who doesn't really remember that you're just some bozo who like used to be running around, Bryn Mawr Avenue.
Well said. I do that every Sunday. Every Sunday during
Every
the
Sunday. Oh, that's a bit much. I'm a crank every other day. Don't worry.
No. But I'm curious, not to sicko level in terms of Birds with Friends, but to sicko level in terms of like the Philadelphia in them. As you're on the college basketball beat, as you're on the golf beat, who are the characters that you come across, whether it's coaches, assistants, players, administrators, golfers, caddies? I don't know golf well enough to know the other people you run into on the golf beat, but that share that Philadelphia or that Eagles fandom.
Nothing I can really think. Not on the basketball side of things, because like the basketball side of things, in March when Villanova is playing well, I hope that I just cross paths with Mike Jensen and Sealski and those guys out covering Villanova, right? It's a great taste of home. Last year I was really lucky of getting 3 weeks in a row with Villanova. It just happened by chance. I was in Pittsburgh, San Antonio, and then Nova went to the Final Four. So, like Mike Jensen's one of the reasons. Mike Jensen from the Inquirer is like one of the reasons I even like.
He's awesome.
Employed. I'd probably still be bartending back like downtown or something. So yeah, I got to spend 3 weeks with him. But on the golf side, I will say Harry Higgs, who is a very well-known player, more for his
prodigious chest hair.
Yeah, he's got a whole vibe to him. Actually lost his PGA Tour card and is now on the Corn Ferry, but I do think he's got enough game to get back. But he is a rampant Eagles fan and Villanova fan, as is his brother, who is his caddy. Now they were born. They left Philly, I think, when they were like 14, and went out to Kansas City, actually. But I checked with Harry on the week of the Super Bowl, and I was like, let's just put it all on the table here. Who are you pulling for? And he's like, without question, it's Eagles over Chiefs. This is not even a conversation. So, right answer.
We gotta get Harry on the pod.
We can get Harry. I'll get you Harry on the pod if you want to make that happen.
Yeah, let's do it. Absolutely.
Nice.
Fantastic.
That's a done deal. We can have that done by the end of today.
Love that. How do you feel about the? Let's do it. Let's spin it forward for a little preview for this weekend. You've got some great matchups out there in Las Vegas.
Yeah, I got a great location for this after last week in Birmingham, which was not. So this week I have Arkansas, UConn on one side of the bracket. Just could be a tremendous game of.
Great UConn story, by the way, earlier this year.
Thank you. Yeah, Danny Hurley's a fascinating guy, and
should have hooked you up with the women's hockey team.
At UConn?
UConn, yeah.
Oh boy.
Elizabeth Wulf, assistant coach.
Yeah, that's why.
That's right. My mind immediately just went to Katie Streng's Harvard hockey.
Yes.
Am I missing a connection here?
Yeah. Okay. That's why I wanted to clarify it for that reason.
Better. That's way better. So, I find Danny Hurley to be a fascinating character to write about because, I need to see him with 4 minutes to go in an Elite Eight game, trying to navigate his two sides of one is a brilliant basketball coach, the son of arguably like one of the 5 greatest coaches ever, Bob Hurley Sr. from St. Anthony. And then decide that he's just a borderline sociopath, lunatic. I don't know what the word is. I don't know if any of those are even socially acceptable, but like, I feel okay saying that because I think he would agree with it. And just so I need to see that moment of like the under 4 timeout, Danny Hurley trying to navigate that would be incredible. Then the other game down there is Gonzaga UCLA, which anyone who follows college basketball, from the Adam Morrison crying game to the shot a couple of years ago, is like there's more storylines than anyone can deal with. I'll be there with Brian Hamilton and Deshaun Reed, so we're going to be locked and loaded down there, so that'll be fun. And I think it's a pretty strong Sweet 16 for having lost 2 1 seeds, because the 1 seeds that we lost were pretty fraudulent anyway. So
my wife Rachel really hates Purdue. For reasons that we don't have to go into, and she predicted Fairleigh Dickinson to win that game.
No way.
And so we were at Zach's party, which we will have talked about in the beginning of this episode, and she's just glowing, just like so happy that Purdue has lost. So good stuff. By the way, Zach, go ahead.
I hope people understand how absurd of an upset that was. Like do not let UMBC, the fact that UMBC did it to Virginia 5 years ago, diminish the fact that was outrageous. And
they didn't even win their conference.
Another good story by you. The whole transitive property of FDU's.
You can legitimately say the UMBC loss was not as bad as this loss. That Fairleigh Dickinson team finished second in the worst conference in the country.
Right. Shortest team in college basketball.
They lost to 2 teams transitioning into Division I basketball and lost to 1 team transitioning out of Division I basketball. It was just impossible.
I don't mean to ask you the generic sports radio question here, but
we'd have to do the whole ZB and the Wolf intro.
But why do you think, as someone who's close to this every day, why do you think you're seeing more of these bigger upsets, right? I mean, we always see these 7-10s, if you will, and then every now and then you get the 2-15s. But just when you just look at the bracket now, there seems to be less of a difference, for lack of a better term, between those top seeds and those bottom seeds.
I think the basic reason is probably dispersion of talent, and the fact that you used to probably see more situations of the guy who was at 11th dude at Purdue, whatever, just being content to kind of be there for 5 years. That's probably the way it was in the 80s, 90s, whatever, basically since expansion to a field of 64 and then to 68. And in more recent years, I think people are just kind of, there's just more spread out talent. There's just more players, period. And it's the beauty of basketball is the other thing, that like all you need is 4, 3, 4, 5, and that's it. It's not football. I was at St. Joe's when Delonte West was my year. Jameer Nelson was a year ahead of me. It was those 2 and a bunch of nice players, and they went 27-0 and ranked number 1 in the country. Right? Like
Pat Carroll, give Pat Carroll some credit there. Yeah.
I'll always give Pat Carroll his flowers. I'm just saying, he was the Atlantic 10 Player of the Year as a senior without those 2, and the team didn't make the NCAA tournament. Yeah. They went to the NIT. So it was having 2 legitimate first-round NBA pick guards. One, just out of Chester, who really was down to St. Joe's or Temple, and then a guy like Delonte, who had some like late recruiting attention from some nice schools, but like wasn't recruited by Georgetown, wasn't recruited by Maryland, ends up at St. Joe's, and that's it. So I think there's probably just more talent, more players. The fact that the grassroots circuit is able to bring more players in front of coaches and things like that. That's a number of things, and then just college basketball too. I have wondered if now we're even going to see more of this, because with the one-time transfer rule, you're going to see down transfers that are going to make low and mid majors that much better. And at the same time, you're going to see a lack of roster continuity at the highest level of, like, you think of those great Villanova teams where all those guys, they would all be players who've been together for 3-4 years. And by the time they get to the national championship game, you got guys who played 128 career games together and things like that. And like, those teams are just really hard to beat. Now, go and look at a lot of these rosters and you'll see, yes, you might have upperclassmen playing together, but how many years did they play together? And those are two different things, so I think all of that kind of goes into it.
I just needed to get this in that Zach ends every podcast the same way that Eric Musselman ends most tournament games. Standing on a chair and ripping his shirt off.
I mean, Musselman for his age, pretty shredded. I hope Zach is.
It's a good name, Musselman.
Presenting as much, yeah.
I appreciate Eric Musselman. He's an athletic reader. He'll randomly share stories that we write, with lessons that he learned from the story.
There you go.
We could talk about Eric Musselman, but I don't know if that'd be great for anybody.
All right. Well, Brendan, thank you so much for taking the time. You can follow BQ at BF Quinn on Twitter. I imagine that most of the sickos are reading you already, but check them out.
This was like the highest honor, guys. I mean, this is up there. I was talking to my much better half, Sabrina, and he said, I have a lot of requests this week, right? Obviously, yeah, exactly. And I had to do CBS radio yesterday and blah, blah, blah. She's like, oh, that seems big time. I'm like, no. No. There is only one highlight of this week, and it is Birds with Friends. And yeah, I mean, this is Bo. When you reached out, I mean, I couldn't have replied fast enough.
Well, so pick a winner. We need a winner.
The nauseating mutual.
Yeah, we need a winner.
The champion will come from the group of UConn, Alabama, and UConn. So I'll narrow it to those three. I'm out.
UConn, Alabama, and who?
UConn, Alabama, and Houston.
Oh, Houston. Okay, Houston.
Okay. If I misspoke, I don't know. But out of that group, I think the champion comes. Out of that group, I will take the University of Connecticut.
Nice.
I took them in like January, and then I took them on my bracket. So, you can't
play very well. Yeah.
You got to ride with it. I love their makeup, and they're one of the very few teams that you get 2 or 3 fouls on their starting center, and they bring in a guy who's just as good, if not better. That's just an incredible luxury. They can shoot the hell out of the ball. They defend. Now, the problem might be playing Houston in Houston, but we'll see how that goes.
Right, yeah. Only Alabama doesn't have to play. Well, I mean, who knows, have to play, but might not have to go through one of the others. But
well, when the pod comes out, we'll put out your UConn story because everyone should read it. All the sickos should read it.
I agree. They should.
All right, BQ, thank you so much. And that'll do it for this episode of Birds with Friends. So for Zach and Marissa and Emily, I'm Bo. We thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you later. And as always, we love you.
Birds with Friends.